Good evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. Your one-stop shop for pro wrestling insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. We're just hours away from tonight's episode of AEW Dynamite, and for once, not much is announced. But we still have a lot to talk about today, including Tony Khan's latest AEW Dynamite announcement, but we'll get into that in just a second. First, I got to introduce the co-hosts for today. Firstly, the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. How are you, Clark?
What is going on, my friend? Happy Wednesday, May 31st, the last day of May. How in the world? We're almost halfway into this year. I don't get it. What is this whole time going by so fast thing? I don't know. Someday I may figure that out, but we got a sweet Dynamite on tap tonight. We had an awesome wrestling weekend behind us. We got a lot of great pro wrestling ahead of us. I'm just stoked to be back once again.
Yes, absolutely great to have you back. And also thank you, Clark, for hosting the show yesterday, as I felt a little bit under the weather. And monster shout out to the super sub, Kobe Galanzowski, for appearing on the show yesterday as well. But also joining us to discuss today, David. How are you, David?
I am good. Thank you very much for having me once again. A now beardless me, which is a very, very weird sight for me to look at in the camera. We're coming off the back of a fairly good Double or Nothing. Nothing spectacular, but a decent show. I'm excited to go into this Dynamite taking place from San Diego. For the sake of keeping this show family friendly, I will not reference South Park in any way. But I am very excited to get going. Let's get at it.
Before the show, me and Clark were just discussing slogans, but that's one hell of a slogan. Double or
hang on.
Nothing
Back up.
special.
It's in San Diego tonight. Am I about to get off this show and scalp a ticket? I didn't realize that.
Could do. You could witness Tony Khan's latest announcement, but also joining us to discuss everything, Chaos. How are you, Chaos?
What's up, gentlemen? Yes, happy Wednesday. You know what that means. Obviously I wasn't part of the panel for the discussion for Double or Nothing, but yeah, I agree with David. It was okay. It was comme ci comme ça, as I tend to like to say. But yeah, let's get onto it. I got my NFL popcorn ready and all that stuff. So yeah, we're gonna be entering, gonna be munching. Let's get to it.
Absolutely. Let's firstly talk about TK's announcement. Tony Khan's big announcement, major announcement for Dynamite tonight. And he's going to be making an announcement for the third week in a row on Dynamite. The announcement, they've already said, will be about the first Collision show. So, I mean, it basically, you can presume it's one of two things. The first being a possible draft. Obviously, it being the first Collision show, perhaps a draft will happen to have brand split between Dynamite and Collision. The other one, of course, it's in Chicago. It's in Chicago. They've still got CM Punk under contract. Could he shockingly appear and show up and make his return to AEW after the brawlout situation from last year? We're going to have to wait and see. But, I mean, that first episode of Collision doesn't seem to be selling. It's selling okay, but nothing it's nowhere near close to a sellout yet. It's still a few weeks to go. They don't need to worry. But compared to the last time they ran a Chicago show teasing a certain somebody, that sold out instantly, and this is nowhere near that. So I do think it's very possible they're going to be announcing a CM Punk return and announcing it ahead of time to boost those ticket sales. And, of course, the news cycle hasn't been too kind to AEW this weekend. They're in the news today for some production issues during Double or Nothing, which, to be honest with you, I didn't even really notice. But their producer went on a Twitter rant, which brought more news coverage to it, which probably, from a business perspective, isn't the best decision, but they did that. And of course, it's got the band, whose name I've honestly forgotten, who did the Blackpool Combat's theme. That's gotten mainstream coverage as well for the use of blackface during it, and the criticism because of that. So they've been the news cycle.
Blackface, what?
Yeah, the news cycle has not been too kind to AEW this week.
No, really? Sorry.
I
carry on.
wonder why.
By the way, Max Caster called it out on the show itself.
Yeah, I know.
Max said it in his freestyle about
He said it
Malachi
about
and the like
He said it on Malachi Black, and then they did it again later on, and it was
ridiculous.
The one in the band that was absolute. That was just I don't.
The one in the band basically said, "Hold my beer."
Yeah.
That's what you think.
Watch
it was
this.
ridiculous.
It's gross.
It truly was. I don't understand. I said it the other day on the show. I don't understand how that got past that many people walking backstage, but as I said, Tony Khan will want something, right? And the other thing, of course, going on the news cycle is the fact that Pat McAfee on a huge episode of his show for him, because he had some announcement on. Also, went on did a segment talking about AEW's post ticket sales. So yeah, it's really not been a great few days for AEW. So yes, I think tonight might be the announcement of CM Punk just to change the news cycle a little bit. But Clark, I'm going to head to you first. Why do you think Tony Khan's doing all these announcements? And is it getting a little bit embarrassing that we're seeing every week? Tony Khan is making an announcement on Dynamite. Because originally he said he wouldn't even put himself on AEW television. But Clark, what do you think?
I'm going to start with answering the little bit embarrassing question. And the answer is yes, it is a little bit embarrassing. Without question. It devalues the big announcement phrase as a whole. It's too many in a row. If this one's CM Punk, which it should be, this one ought to be CM Punk. It's time. After the news cycle this week that we just discussed, which is horrible.
Yeah.
And deservedly so. And I'm a huge fan of AEW's product as a whole. The announcement needs to be CM Punk. It does. We need a reason to care. We need a reason to ask questions that aren't about politics backstage, booking as a whole, and the future as a challenger brand at WWE. We need to avoid that conversation in the short term here. And the one ace in the hole that Tony has is Punk here. And if we get Punk back on TV, that's all we'll talk about for a while.
Yeah, that's true.
It is the most direct route back to being positively talked about in the news cycle, and it's the one they got to take. As great as the surprise would be in Chicago having Punk, sell that building out in the first place, bring him back tonight. Let's go from there.
Yeah. No, I do agree. And I think the first appearance should be that show, but I think they should just announce him ahead of time because, CM Punk, announcing CM Punk, that would certainly shake up the news cycle, and that is what AEW need. But Clark, what is your thoughts on mustaches?
To be honest, we have not factored in the ability of CM Punk to grow one. And that actually may end up being the most noteworthy mustache in the industry here in the next few months. So I'm going to go back to my original take here. And I'm not going to rule out Punk with we saw him go mutton chop full Triple H mustache. We know he's got that in the cards. He knows a barber who can help control that situation. And if we can get that back, now we're talking mustaches. Tony Khan, mustache-wise, I believe in him. Shad's mustache with the curlies? Come on.
Oh,
amazing. We know how good that one is. Vince is obviously that's more of a pencil thin kind of a, it's kind of a rookie mustache actually for a guy that's not a mustache guy, I would say.
Wow.
I would grow one. Yeah, no, it was a very amateurish mustache on the Vince side. I would go with Shad Khan, mustache number 1 here. I think if we can add the mutton chops, Punk, we can throw that into the mix. Rick Boogs also, by the way, underrated wrestling mustache and deserves a shout because he took the time to grow that baby. It's not easy to do.
If you guys are wondering why we're talking mustaches, over on YouTube in the comment section, everyone's talking about Tony Khan growing a mustache, and that's his announcement tonight on Dynamite. I think that would just sum up AEW's week. But David,
shows up with the curly.
you think, as the Dynamite reviewer for Wrestling Republic, what do you think about all these TK Tony Khan announcements?
I don't care. And the reason, I mean, it's hysterically funny that I've been reviewing AEW Dynamite for the website. This will be my 3rd week tonight. And every single week I've been reviewing for this site, we've had a Tony Khan announcement. And every week they've built it slowly, and they've built it slowly, and I've cared less and less and less. This week, I'm just going to focus on Punk because to be honest with you, I'm not bothered. Tony Khan could announce that he's got himself a new cat for all I care. But the CM Punk announcements, I think it probably might be Punk, but I think there are two points of concern to bear in mind when you have an announcement like Punk's. Number one, I know we have a very big CM Punk fan in Clark, but we it's worth noting, do the fans actually want him there? Because when the announcement came about Chicago, I didn't realize this on the when I was reviewing the show, but apparently there were boos.
Yeah.
And there is a possibility that it could backfire on Tony if they announce CM Punk today. They could have a backlash where fans could boo it, and that's not the kind of the thing that they want. Because also, if this is the mainstream coverage they want to get, if that mainstream coverage backfires, and all of a sudden Punk being this unprofessional beacon of the company, sort of it could go either way. It could be a really exciting announcement for AEW, or it could backfire. It's really sort of dependent on how things go. The other kind of issue you have with Punk is that we already saw that I'm not 100% sure how reliable it was that they had to move the Collision announcement of United Center back a little bit because of some issues with Punk, and they were looking at new venues and everything because of an issue that sort of happens. Because of Punk's Instagram rant. I'm sorry, I went a little off track. Went a little, and who's to say there's not another incident? If you announce Punk today, you then have at least 2 weeks where you've committed to him. You've stamped yourself down. So if he goes on another rant, they've got no out. Which, granted, I think he will debut, and Chicago will love him. I think the issue will be crowds outside of Chicago, which could be the announcement today, and could also be the second episode of Collision, for example. But I think there's a possibility they could shoot themselves in the foot. Punk would be the most exciting announcement because there's not a lot else you can announce. Stuff to do with Forbidden Door or All In. They've done a draft. I don't care about a draft because the reason I don't care about a draft is because we've already seen WWE don't care about it. So if you're like, and I'm not saying that they're different companies, but drafts aren't exciting because they just get bungled so quickly. So it's just, I think Punk is the most exciting announcement, but I think there are definitely risks with Punk being the announcement.
Yeah, 110% agree with you there. I mean, I think the announcement tonight, if that is the announcement, I think that'll get cheered. And like you said, I think in Chicago he'll get cheered, but it's outside of there. However, thankfully, I don't think, and don't think I'd be completely shocked if Punk actually has full-on go-away heat, as in turn off your TV heat. I think it'd be the type of heat where he'd get booed or whatever, or fans might not like him. But I feel like if that's a situation, you could just turn him heel, as long as he's happy to do so.
That's the question.
Yeah, if he's happy to do so, then I think you'd be sorted, and you might be able to give Punk a monster heel turn.
There is money. There is so much money to be made. So much money to be made if he plays ball.
Punk is money, and AEW need money. But Chaos, what do you think about all of this and Tony Khan's unlimited announcements?
Oh yeah, I'm just as sick and tired of them. Clearly, I don't think this announcement was part of the plan. I agree that the ticket sales have been slow. Out of curiosity, I actually went to see if I can get tickets for that show, and there's some good seats for a decent price, if I might add as well. So yeah, the tickets ain't really been selling. It has to be the CM Punk announcement now. The only way I could see them, I understand. I do remember there was a bit of a mixed reaction when they said that it was going to be at the United Center. But obviously, there was more CM Punk chants that eventually crowded that out. Now, just in case there may be some potential backlash, what I think will make the announcement more interesting, instead of just having this Tony Khan just sitting there looking very just stone faced and just talking, and you can see from the teleprompter, want to do a video package. Make that play, and then you see CM Punk show up saying, "Yeah, I'm gonna be at Collision," and then maybe just go straight to commercial, or like just do one of Excalibur's very high intense announcements for matches in the following week, that kind of thing. That's where you can just about tune out the crowd just in case there may be some backlash. Now you're saying that obviously Chicago, I thought they would be booing CM Punk, but I do remember when the last time they were in Chicago, when the Elite came out, there was some very vocal FC and Punk chants in that night when I think they were in the trios match. I can't remember who they fought, but they were very vocal, and that was obviously their first time coming back to Chicago since Brawl Out. So it may just be a mixed reaction, but yeah, I think it will get more love than hatred when he does show up at United Center. So yeah, if Khan wants to, if he's not sure, because they're not very quick on, the production can be a bit iffy sometimes, and they might not be quick to mute out the booze in time when CM Punk's name is announced. So I think the best way to do it is to do a video package, show him showing it's going to be that Collision, and then take it from there. So yeah. But I'm very tired of these flipping announcements. They're ridiculous.
Yeah, no, that I think that'd be a great move if they did just do a promo package. And I don't even think they should have advertised that for tonight's show. I think if you announce it for tonight's show, that's gonna be a big enough news story. You don't need to announce an announcement.
Oh yeah,
that's my only thing about it. But I would agree, bang on. That would be the move instead of Tony Khan just announcing it himself. But now let's talk Chris Statlander, who of course returned at Double or Nothing and is now the new TBS champion after she defeated Jade Cargill after Jade defeated Taya Valkyrie. And on the road to AEW's YouTube series this week on the AEW YouTube channel, they posted a brilliant promo package showing Chris Statlander's recovery from injury, and it wasn't that long; it was a couple of minutes, right? But it was really good, and it made me care about Chris Statlander. And I'm going to go to the good old saying, why isn't this on Dynamite? Yes, you'd probably have to condense it about a minute or whatever, so maybe you could put the full version on there. But that needs to be, to a degree, on Dynamite tonight. And that should have been where it aired for the first time, and then it was on the Road to show afterwards for the next week or something like that in full. But it was really good, and AEW need to make Chris Statlander feel important now, right? Because she's just defeated Jade Cargill's streak. I still think it's ridiculous how it happened. I think Statlander should have been the one to do it, but I think how it was done was ridiculous. There was no build up to it. You could have really built that into a big match and made the match feel important. Sell, well, not necessarily sell pay-per-views, but sell, or get viewers or whatever. That could mean a huge match on Dynamite or even a future pay-per-view. But instead, it was just, I didn't like it. I mean, Drizzy made a great point on the show the other day that, the unpredictability of it, maybe Jade looked got a bit overconfident. And I do agree from a storyline perspective. Yes, fair enough. But I also just do believe that it would have been a bigger moment for Chris if it had been built up a bit more. But Clark, what do you think about this? And, where do you see Chris Statlander going from here now?
It's brutal because I am a huge fan of Statlander's work, and I think she's awesome bell to bell and in the ring, but Jade Cargill got robbed. What are we doing here? Unless the next step is Jade is the logical world champion, like she's just gonna squash Toni Storm. Unless that's your next move, why did we do this now and the way we did? Because the only logical build for a great rivalry left, given all we had built with the streak, is Statlander versus Jade. And we did it in the same night. I'll point back to the Cody Brock thing we talked about. We have a babyface using a weapon to his advantage and getting submitted on an arm that's protected by titanium. We have Chris Statlander, a babyface, the ultimate babyface, telling the ultimate story of coming back from injury, wrestling a compromised Jade Cargill after a match, taking advantage of the fact that Jade had already wrestled a title match that night. Yeah, Jade called her out, called anyone out, and whatnot. But there is such a stone left unturned on the story that could be told between Statlander and Jade Cargill. It's not right. A true babyface would want Jade at full strength, would have to overcome something to accomplish that goal. She overcame an already compromised wrestler in Jade Cargill, which, while it protects Jade from a booking standpoint, isn't enough for me to justify it. You put 60 wins of work in to end it on a match that wasn't advertised? What in the world are we doing here? Where we go now? It's too late now. I don't know. But I think it has to be a huge Statlander push as the TBS champion, and even further, Cargill to the moon in the World Championship division.
Yeah. No, I bang on, do agree with you there. It was frustrating. They should have just built it more. But let's now talk about something which they are building. Let's talk Don Callis and Takeshita. And Don Callis will be on Dynamite tonight to explain his relationship with Takeshita. And there's a lot of questions surrounding this. Are they in the Blackpool Combat Club? Are they not in the Blackpool Combat Club? We now know, just announced, that Lucha Bros will be teaming up with Bandido to take on the Blackpool Combat Club. So, will the Takeshita promo happen after that? Who knows? Or are, Don Callis and Takeshita separate from the Blackpool Combat Club? I've already said it. I really hope they do Takeshita with Blackpool Combat Club versus the Elite with Kota Ibushi. That would be a dream blood and guts match for me. I'd love that. But yeah, my question here is, do you think Don Callis will take Takeshita to the next level, or should Takeshita just remain the babyface and would have done fine on his own? What do you think about this, Chaos?
First off, I love this, how it all unfolded. It was a nice little twist. In the positive way, he was like the last person I thought I was going to see interfere in Anarchy in the Arena match. But I like it. It keeps him fresh. It shows that it still have big plans for him. I'm very interested to see what he can be as a heel instead of just the same plucky baby face. We have plenty of those in AEW already, so this would be a nice turn for him. I think he'd be a great fit in the Blackpool Combat Club, and Don Callis can easily be the new William Regal for obviously you can't be really William Regal, but he can be the new spokesperson for BCC. Even though Danielson is good at it, but I think someone that is predominantly just for the talking. And that's a cowardly heel would be the best person would be Don Callis. So yeah, I do like this. Now, and obviously this is all leading most likely. I don't know if they might even do blood and guts. I think it would just be something at Forbidden Door, Elite and Ibushi versus the BCC, which would obviously do gangbusters, I think. And yeah, clearly they just the way they set this up, this shows that Forbidden Door was more important in management than Double or Nothing. The more the show went on, you could see even from the build up, the Double or Nothing wasn't really the focus. They were more focused on Forbidden Door and obviously hitting milestones with All In, and then who knows what's going to happen with All Out. So yeah, no, I love the build up. I'm very intrigued to see what it can do with Takeshita, Konosuke Takeshita. And yeah, we just have to build from that. It's been good so far, 100%.
Yeah, no, I do agree that Don Callis, he could be a very good spokesperson for the Blackpool Combat Club. The fact that he's a bit cowardly, it kind of goes against some of the Blackpool Combat Club stuff, but they are heels, so I understand it. I hope you're wrong about the Forbidden Door thing, because I'm really hoping for it to happen in Blood and Guts, because of course Ibushi wouldn't be allowed to wouldn't be allowed to be involved, considering the stuff he currently has against New Japan.
Oh yeah.
likely wouldn't be allowed to be involved in Forbidden Door. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. I mean, the one thing though I will call you out for, Chaos, is you clearly did not watch the show the other day, as I called the Takeshita thing perfectly. I said it was going to happen. And yeah, it was exactly
My bad.
The only thing
all
which
good.
didn't happen was what Anthony said about Don Callis playing disguised as an old woman playing at a slot machine with a match happening in the casino like Park Pit.
They did avoid the casino. That would have been awesome, though. The casino would have been awesome.
Oh, that was a mad episode last week. But anyway, let's now move on to another match announced for tonight, and that is Saraya will be teaming up with Chris Jericho to take on Adam Cole and Britt Baker in mixed tag team action. And usually, and I've said this a few times now on the show, I'm not a fan of mixed tag matches. I'm just not. But this one actually does intrigue me quite a bit, just because I never thought that, these guys would, team together. And also it's going to be interesting to see, Britt and Saraya in the ring together. So yeah, I'm a bit interested. Again, I'm not usually a fan of mixed tag team matches just because of the, the entire thing of, well, if you get tagged and the other person comes in too, and it's just, there's only so much you can do from, a booking standpoint, in that it very much limits you. But my question is, right, and if Chaos is right and they're not going to do Blood and Guts despite it being originally scheduled, then this just completely goes out the window. But could they do a Blood and Guts match with Saraya, Toni Storm, Chris Jericho, and Sammy Guevara teaming up to face Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, Britt Baker, and Hikaru Shida? And the reason I say this is, if indeed Blood and Guts is going to be coming up soon, then, I mean, Jamie Hayter's no longer, she's no longer cleared. She's going to be out of action for probably a little bit of time, which means that the faces, they need some more people or whatever. So merging these two storylines into one and doing the first ever mixed Blood and Guts match, that could be interesting. It could also be a mess because, of course, the men and the women won't fight each other. They'll be just fighting. The women will be fighting the women, the men will be fighting the men. But if they find out, a way to do it and to do it, well, perhaps it could be interesting. It'd certainly be intriguing. But David, let me ask you your thoughts on this match tonight, and if you do think they could go in the direction of that Blood and Guts match. Please
don't will that into existence, Ben. Please. Maybe that'll probably give away my thoughts where I'm going with this. I was a big fan of the build for Chris Jericho and Adam Cole. I thought the match was absolutely rubbish. I thought the match at Double or Nothing was like watching two drunk uncles batter each other for 10 minutes very, very badly with actually, no, 3, because Sabu was there as well. And it was a real shame because I there were bits of the match I actually did like, and then I just thought it devolved into really, really heatless. I've never heard a crowd care less in my life for a match that has a good build. I was just watching it going, the crowd are desperate for anything else right now. The mixed tag I'm slightly more interested in, ever so slightly. I don't care about Saraya particularly. I do care about Britt Baker, and I do care about the Adam Cole Britt Baker thing. This does have a story, and actually the bits where the two were actually wrestling, where it was Adam Cole and Chris Jericho just doing straight wrestling, wasn't bad. So I think that if you just have a decent mixed tag match, they're 4 good wrestlers. They can have a good wrestling match. I feel like the match at Double or Nothing, I thought it was the worst match on the card quite comfortably. And I think that's probably burned me. So I need to see where we go. But I think we can go somewhere. I really don't want that Blood and Guts match. I would rather anything else, genuinely. But the match could be fun, and I'm holding out hope because they are good wrestlers and they've had good, they are capable of more. Although I swear Tony Khan said he'd never book mixed gender wrestling, but they
wouldn't touch each other. But if
they wouldn't, fair enough.
As
fair
long
enough.
as
That's fine.
Tony Khan said he's never gonna ever have men and women fighting in AEW. But
hey, we did have Cody team with Red Velvet against Jade and Shaq.
But they didn't touch each other.
Yeah,
No,
that's
I
what I'm saying.
know.
We could do intergender, but just no
Yeah.
touching.
Just they
Okay.
can't touch.
Yeah.
I get it.
But until you brought up Sabu, David, I mean, we're talking about controversies AEW had over the weekend in the mainstream. I forgot to even mention the Sabu one. That was it. That was maybe the biggest out of them all. It was meant to be one of the biggest, couple of weeks in AEW's history, and it's really not gone the way I think they expected it to. But yeah, no, I bang on, agree with you there. I don't want to see that blood and guts match. I have a feeling that's going to be the way it goes. I mean, I can't believe Jamie Hayter got hurt because I really wanted to see this, Originals versus Outcasts feud settled in blood and guts. As it'd make a lot of sense for it, and also I just want the storyline finished. I just want it to end, please. It's dragging on too long. It's taking up too much TV time. It's not even taking up too much TV time. It's taking up too much of the women's airtime, right? There should be more women's airtime on the show, but that's another debate for another day. But the thing that I want to get into for the next 15 minutes is the AEW World Championship. Of course, we saw MJF retain his championship at Double or Nothing against Jungle Boy, Darby Allin, and Sammy Guevara in a really, really great match. However, a match which didn't draw pay-per-view buys. It didn't, we talked about the Double or Nothing ticket sales already. It didn't sell tickets. It was a really, really great match. It was 4 really great guys, 4 guys with huge potential. However, 4 guys who should not be main eventing a pay-per-view yet. That's what the outcome of that proves, right? The pay-per-view buys, they're not official yet, but it's looking not great. The question is whether or not it's going to be the worst of all time for AEW or not, which is, consider that would be down nearly 40,000 from the last pay-per-view, which is just ridiculous numbers to go down by. But let's not get into that too much, right? The big factor of that is MJF needs to face, big stars to make sure he's continuing to get himself over and to sell pay-per-views. So who should his next feud be? Who should his next challenger be? Now, of course, we mentioned a few times on this show today that Forbidden Door is coming up. So perhaps MJF could be facing, somebody from New Japan Pro Wrestling, Kazuchika Okada, Hiroshi Tanahashi, both of which I believe are holding the Never 6-man tag team titles currently in New Japan. But MJF has been very, very vocal about his dislike for New Japan Pro Wrestling over the last couple of years. So much so that, it's hard to work out whether or not it's actually real or not. Maybe he really doesn't like it because he keeps calling it a glorified indie promotion. But I've always thought it was kayfabe until, of course, he refused to work Forbidden Door last year. But there was other things at play there as well. Because he didn't appear for like 3 months on any TV product from AEW. But perhaps we could get MJF defending next against Okada. Would that sell pay-per-view sales? For Forbidden Door, maybe. Who knows? I'm still not entirely sure. But it'd certainly be an interesting match, right? Another possible opponent would be Adam Cole. And that's the feud which I thought, and I think a lot of people thought that was going to happen following Double or Nothing. MJF and Adam Cole. The groundwork is already there with the MJF Britt Baker stuff. But, of course, now this Adam Cole and Chris Jericho thing's kind of continuing. Maybe it's just for this one match tonight, or maybe it'll be a longer-term thing. We're going to have to wait and see. I get the feeling it might be a longer-term thing. Then, like we talked about at the opening of this show, in 2 weeks' time, could CM Punk return on the debut episode of Collision in Chicago? That's the possibility. Could you reignite the feud between MJF and CM Punk and maybe just wait 2 weeks with MJF, not really doing too much? I think, it's only, is it 2 or 3 weeks? But it wouldn't be that long. I guess you could. However, the bigger question is, do you want CM Punk going directly into a feud for the championship? Or do you want to, slowly build it up, right? And also prove his reliability once again, because he's, like you touched upon earlier, David, he's been hugely unreliable for them lately. And the final name, which is what a lot of people are pitching, Trizzy pitched it on the show the other day, that would be continuing the feud with Darby Allin. And on paper, I love this, but the 4 pillars have already proved that together they currently can't draw. So we need to, give it some time before they're in the main event scene together again, despite, how great they are together. And that's kind of the shame of the whole thing. But Clark, I'm going to go to you first. Who do you think could be MJF's next challenger?
So I've got 3 names. I like the Darby call, but I'm in agreement that it's not time or place. So I'm going to start with my first one, which is CM Punk, who we've already named. Super logical. Has to happen at some point down the road. Absolutely has to happen. We were promised it at the end of All Out 2021. And if that press conference doesn't happen, it's all we were talking about for 2 months. It did, though. The next one is Adam Cole, who you previously mentioned. Logically speaking, I think that's the one we need to see at Forbidden Door. Get Cole redemption at Forbidden Door. He got the Rainmaker last year, hurt his head. Let's have him have a world title match at Forbidden Door. That adds up. I'm cool with that. The last one, and this is the most important one, and this is the one we all forget, and he's tied up, unfortunately, with the TNT title. But Wardlow is the last person to cleanly pin Maxwell Jacob Friedman in a ring, and he did it at a pay-per-view in an opening match. Wardlow MJF, the real rivalry, now needs to happen because we know Wardlow can beat him. We know he can. And if there's a way to elevate Wardlow to the levels he can get to along the way with MJF, now that's good storytelling and that's good booking, because MJF can make himself as great as he'd like. But if he doesn't have a dance partner, guess what? It's just a solo. And that doesn't work in pro wrestling. It never has. We remember rivalries, not individuals. We remember moments between two, back and forth, not individuals. And MJF is running the risk of being too good for anyone else. And he needs that match on the other side. Wardlow is a guy that I think could rise to that occasion. I think Punk could as well. And I think Adam Cole can get close. But Wardlow's the one we don't talk about. That is still the last person that pinned him. And if there's one way to elevate 2 people at once, it's that rivalry, win or lose, if executed properly.
Yeah. No, that is a fantastic point there. I mean, the only issue, like you touched upon, is the fact that he's currently the TNT champion. And I said this at the time when Wardlow won back the TNT championship and was put back in the TNT title picture. I was like, why? You got him out of it. That feud with MJF's what you need to be building. MJF's your world champion. That's what you should be building to. He was the last person to beat MJF a year ago at Double or Nothing. There is, of course, also the question, can Wardlow draw? Because you obviously need somebody who can draw to go in the ring with MJF right now. Because as much as MJF it draws, ratings or whatever on TV numbers, clearly he's only drawing, in terms of pay-per-view sales and even TV segments in recent weeks when he's with bigger names. Which is understandable. He's very young. It's understandable. Can Wardlow do that? We'll have to wait and find out. But David, I'll go to you next. What do you think?
I think this is a really interesting question, actually. And the bit that interests me most is Forbidden Door. Because in terms of who I want to see MJF feud with down the road, I feel like I'm throwing out names. Everyone's going to throw Adam Cole. I want to see Hangman Page. A Punk eventually. I'd love to see an MJF and Orange Cassidy feud, but I am Orange Cassidy's biggest fan, as you know, so I'm going to keep parading him till the day I die. Forbidden Door is interesting because I think Forbidden Door is a massive hurdle for MJF, because I don't think MJF gels with the New Japan Forbidden Door concept, because MJF feels like such an insular AEW character. And I feel like, because nobody's got any hope in hell from New Japan of taking that title from MJF. They got around it last year by having the Fatal 4-Way with Hangman, who was champion at the time, in that 4-Way where, again, no one was ever really in danger. But I don't feel like MJF really matches. So I'm going to throw a random name. I'm going to throw a random name out there that probably, maybe... Again, he has no hope of really winning it, but I'm going to throw up Tomohiro Ishii.
Oh, wow.
And it's a completely out there name, But I think you could run a story for Forbidden Door for a few weeks where MJF thinks he's bigger than New Japan and is bigger than Forbidden Door as a show. And I feel like having Tomohiro Ishii running a story of having gone so long, not having really been at the top level of New Japan and trying to kind of take MJF down a peg could be an interesting story, because who else is there on the New Japan roster? Like it feels Okada, I think, is building something with Moxley. I think they've started Okada Moxley build on social media. I think that's where they're going.
That's true.
And again, I don't really want to see Okada MJF particularly. I love Okada. I love MJF. It's MJF doesn't feel like there's very few people on the roster that I feel like MJF would be like, I have to see that match. There's Takagi, there's Naito, there's Tanahashi. There are people he could fight with, but I think I'm going Ishii just because I love Ishii and I would like to see him get a world title match. He won't win it, of course he won't, but no, none of them will. Yeah. So sod it, Ishii. I don't know.
Fair enough. I mean, again, the question is drawing or whatever, but it's difficult when you're doing a pay-per-view like this.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I'd actually like to see that match because I'm a big Ishii guy. But, Chaos, what about you? Who do you think will be the next challenger for Maxwell or Jacob Freeman?
So, yeah, obviously, the slight holdup is obviously Forbidden Door is happening 1 week after Collision. So obviously, I think the most primary one, and the thing is with AEW, or should I say Tony Khan. So first of his first main primary, the next challenger should be CM Punk. The reason I say that is because obviously AEW do have a tendency to immediately pick up from where they left off, whether it's from injury or anything. They've done it with Statlander. They've done it with other people. Obviously, when CM Punk left, the next step was going to be with MJF. More than likely, they're going to carry that on, even though with everything that's happened and everything. At the end of the day, Tony Khan and the TV networks care about ratings. It doesn't matter. They know that's going to be a driver. No one else is going to be that much of a driver between them two, which had the feud of the year last year. So yeah, that's going to be that's definitely going to happen. Obviously, that's Collision. Punk will show up for Collision, obviously doing his big speech and all that stuff. I think by then, obviously, in the meantime, I didn't realize that MJF hated New Japan that much. So if it is a work and they carry on with that kind of thing, I think the only person I know that they can afford the loss, because I don't want to see Okada. Because he's already big. He's already challenged for a major title in last Forbidden Door, even though it wasn't for AEW. It was for the New Japan one. But yeah, I don't think no one really wants to see MJF against Okada, and I don't think they will put him in that kind of predicament. I think one person I think that they could actually afford the loss, and who I know is super over, especially with AEW fans, Shibata. He is the current. Oh, he's under ROH as well. It's super over. So I think that would be a one person that I think they could definitely sell for Forbidden Door. And then obviously he defeats Forbidden Door. Punk comes out, they have a face-to-face. That's where they continue. That's where they start their feud from there. So I think, first and foremost, they have to do the Punk thing. They have to run that back. But for Forbidden Door, I'd say Shibata. See, from your reaction, you didn't really think of that, did you?
No, I didn't. That is absolutely exceptional, and certainly something that I love to see.
Yeah, Shibata is a much better answer than the one I gave.
It makes so much sense as well. I mean, David, the storyline which you pitched with the answer, with Shibata, that worked the exact same way, and it'd perhaps be a bigger deal. It would be absolutely
combo platter special with a drink.
Love that.
Stop me up, DK, goddammit.
But that brings us, guys, to the close of today's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're over on YouTube, like and subscribe. If you're over on Spotify, 5-star and follow. We really appreciate it. We're here every day for you guys, as the name suggests. And we'll be back tomorrow with Clark, Anthony, and Chaos for Throwback Thursday at 11 p.m. UK time, 6 p.m. Eastern and 3 p.m. Pacific.
We're
Thank you
actually
guys
going to
for
go an
watching.
hour early, Ben. I'm so sorry to interrupt you on that.
An
We're going to
hour
go an hour
early.
early. Yeah,
An hour
earlier.
early tomorrow. So that's 10:05 2. See you guys tomorrow, and thank you for watching.